What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Mattel WWE Elite Collection Retrofest Ric Flair. Here we do have the Nature Boy Ric Flair in the packaging. What we're going to do now is take a little break, get them open up, and then we'll have a better look at the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Stay tuned, everyone. And so here we have the Nature Boy Ric Flair posed and out of the packaging. Before we have a look at Nate here, let's actually take a look at his accessories. He only comes with one accessory, and that is his entrance robe, which I absolutely love this accessory. It's done in soft goods, so it is fabric, and it's really intricate. The detailing on it is really nice. The silvers really do pop up really nicely, and it does say Ric Flair in the back, as did all of his entrance robes, so I really do love that. Other than that, Ric Flair doesn't come with anything else, so let's actually move on to his details. And so here we have a closer look at Ric Flair, and I think Mattel did a really good job with this figure now. They are implementing the face printing technology that Hasbro is, and my goodness, does it make all the difference. This actually looks like Ric Flair. From the expression he has on him, you can tell this is Ric Flair, all the way to his feathered blonde hair, which isn't actually blonde. It probably is white now, but my goodness, that is a really good job on Ric Flair here. The detailing on him is fantastic. Even the hair on him represents a really younger Ric Flair, older Ric Flair. I don't really know the terminology here, but it's back in the 1980s when the feathered hair was a thing, and they just captured this figure really, really nicely. I really do love the head sculpt on this figure. That's not to say this figure doesn't have its flaws, and this body does not represent Ric Flair at all. I know he was thin at the time, but he never was really this in shape. This is giving him much more credit than what he actually has. Ric Flair was in shape, but he never had abs like this. He never had pecs like this. He was a little bit on the chubbier side, so he wasn't all flab. He just looked a little flabby. The arms, though, I would say are really good. Ric Flair never had the really veiny Hulk Hogan-like arms, which I am glad Mattel went with these thinner arms. You can see he doesn't have wrist tape at all because this is, again, an older Ric Flair or younger Ric Flair. I, again, don't know the terminology. He just has the bare arms. We do have a grasping hand right here. Fist hand over on this side. I would have preferred he has interchangeable hands so that we can at least give him a chop hand, because, you know, one thing you never do is headbutt a Samoan and mix chops with a Flair. Now, Ric Flair is wearing red tights, so I am a little biased toward this particular color because I am a fan of the red tights on Ric Flair. There's really no specific era that I can actually pinpoint this to other than it's a... Did he win whenever he wore red, or did he always lose? I always forget. But you can see the RF right there for Ric Flair, and it's just basically red tights going all the way around. For some reason, mine has black scuff marks right here. That's not from the fabric. It's not from paint. This figure doesn't even use black paint, so I'm wondering where that black smudge came from. Now, when I did get this guy out of the packaging, he did have red paint all right here. I already touched it up with a nail polish, but you can see I did miss a few spots right there, and it's still a little bit noticeable. One more go with the nail polish should get that removed. Ric Flair, of course, known for wearing his knee pads on his lower shins. I don't know the logic behind that, but when you think knee pads, you always think it should be at the knee, but Ric Flair always wore his knee pads at his shins. I guess it's to protect his fellow wrestlers from moves, but I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Which the knee pads are done really well. They are done in this lighter red, almost pink, and then they have the red paint on the front, which is where this red paint comes from. Moving on to his boots, you can see they did a really good job with the boots, and I don't know, it feels like my Ric Flair has two left boots. I think it's just my mind playing tricks on me, but it does feel like the inward movement of this should be on the other side. I'll double check that later, but you can see the RF for Ric Flair right here, the white laces, the white sole, and it looks really good. A little bit of paint error right here on mine. You can see some white bleeding onto the red. But other than that, there's really not much more to say about Ric Flair. He's basically a wrestler from the 80s, and his attire reflects it. So what we're going to do now is compare him to a few other figures you may have in your collection. Here we have Ric Flair posed next to a WWE Elite Stone Cold Steve Austin and his WWE Elite AJ Styles. Here we have Ric Flair posed next to a WWE Elite CM Punk and a WWE Elite The Miz. And finally, here we have Ric Flair posed next to fellow villains Bobby Heenan and Mr. Perfect. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually run through his articulation. He does have the standard Elite articulation. If you don't know what that is, let's run through it really quickly. He does have a ball joint in the head, however he only looks down because his hair does prevent him from looking up. If he had shorter hair, he definitely would be able to look up. He can tilt his head side to side, so we get a little bit of attitude with this figure. His head does turn left and right, no issues there. Arms on a ball hinge, they go out to about there. Do a full 360, not at all hindered by anything. Swivel at the bicep. He is single jointed at the elbow. We do have a swivel and a hinge at the wrist. No issues there. Ab crunch does go back to about that far. A little loose just up to there, but everywhere else it's really tight. Like, no, I don't have any issues. It's just going back. You can see it's just a tiny bit loose, just very at the very back, but it does crunch forward to about there. We have a waist swivel. Legs do go forward to about there. They go back all the way out so Ric Flair can do the split. He does have upper thigh swivel. Double bend in the knee. No issues there. Swivel at the boot. We do have a hinge in the ankle which goes back and forward all the way. And then we also do get rocker ankle on this figure. So overall, really good articulation here on Ric Flair. So what we're going to do now is take a little break, get him posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have the Retrofest Ric Flair posed for my final thoughts. Overall, I really do like this figure. This is actually the first Ric Flair in my collection. I missed out on all his other releases. However, I am glad I waited just because I think red on Ric Flair looks perfect. As you can see, the soft goods robe looks excellent on this figure. If I had one issue, I think a lack of accessories would be my biggest flaw with this figure. Seeing as how Mattel is starting to go into alternate hands and heads, I would like to see them redo a Ric Flair figure, not only with alternate hands, but with an alternate wooing head. I think that would be the perfect Ric Flair figure if he came with his wrestling head and a wooing head. Other than that, the gold belt probably should be a must-have for any Ric Flair figure, and it is a little bit disappointing that Mattel did not throw in the big gold belt with this figure. However, if you are an avid wrestling collector, you probably have like 80 of these lying around, so giving Ric Flair one is no big deal. Now, if you are looking for the Retrofest figures, they are GameStop exclusive figures, and that is where I found this Ric Flair. I did, unfortunately, wait a really long time for them to lower the price on this figure, because $30 for an Elite figure with no accessories is quite a steep bill. I did get mine for $20 at my local GameStop, where he is technically on clearance, even though that's not much of a clearance sale. If you are looking for this Ric Flair, check your local GameStops. Who knows if they're going to be on clearance or still at full price. It just varies on your GameStop. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go check out all my other action figure reviews, as well as all my other WWE figure reviews. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it fits in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.